When I look at the Houston Rockets, I see a team that has one of the better starting fives in the NBA and one of the more complete starting fives in the NBA. When we look at the two best players in this lineup, one of them is a big, the other one is a perimeter player. That big is a low post dynamic playmaker in Alperen Sengun, and the guy out there on the perimeter is Jalen Green, who's an elite three-level scorer. And the Houston Rockets have been able to surround these guys with three other role players that are really good and can do multiple things on the basketball court. At the one spot, they have Fred VanVleet. At the three, they have Dillon Brooks, and they also have Jabari Smith Jr. at the four. And all three of these guys, they can play defense really well, and they can also knock down a three-point shot and so many other things that these guys bring to the game of basketball, which is perfect to have them around Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun. And now the Houston Rockets, they've been doing such a great job these last couple of years, obtaining talent, whether it's through free agency, through trades, through the NBA draft. Now they're in a situation where they're going to have a second unit that's really good. And if I'm being 100% honest, you look at these five guys that I think is going to be the second unit for the Houston Rockets, you can make an argument, you can make a case that these guys can start on the majority of the teams in the NBA. Now, I don't have this is not an official second unit for the Houston Rockets. I'm just making an educated guess. But if it was me coaching the Houston Rockets and I had to throw out a second unit, my second unit would be, and the 1 and 2 spots are definitely interchangeable, but I think this is going to be the backcourt no matter what. It's going to be Reed Shepard. It's going to be Ammen Thompson in the backcourt. At the 3 spot, out on the wing, you're going to have Whitmore. And then at that 4 and 5 spot, you're going to have Trae Young. And you're also going to have Steven Adams. Now, in my opinion, this is a really good second unit because these guys have so much talent individually, but I think they're going to be able to work really, really well as a group. And the first thing I want to do is just go over briefly what all of these guys bring individually to the table. And we can start at that one position with Reed Shepard, who was the 3rd overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft. And he's probably the biggest addition of the Houston Rockets this offseason, just because he's going to bring so many things to the table that the Houston Rockets were lacking. Another floor general, another playmaker. And Reed Shepard, he played with Rob Dillingham when he was at Kentucky, so we didn't really see too much of him with the ball in his hands up into Summer League, where he looked like a really, really natural playmaker. He was making all different types of passes, putting guys in the right position, and he looked very, very comfortable having the ball in his hands 100% of the time, especially, I wouldn't say 100% of the time, but majority of the time, especially the first Summer League game that Whitmore sat out of. Reed Shepard, when he lost that quote-unquote security blanket, he still looked very, very comfortable. So they're getting another floor general. And then also the best part of Reed Shepard's game is his three-point shooting. And last season, the Houston Rockets, they ranked towards the bottom of the NBA when it came to three-point efficiency, and they were able to go in the NBA draft and get the best shooter in the country, Reed Shepard, who shot over 50% from the field, 50% from the three-point line. And he's not a guy that's out there just taking 2 or 3 threes per game. He's getting them up and he's dropping them. So Reed Shepard at the 1 spot, I think that's going to be terrific. He can do so many things. He can score in the 2-man game. He can set guys up in the 2-man game. And then most importantly, he's fluid without the basketball. Great off-ball movement. So Reed Shepard, he's a solid player. And then at the 2, you have Ammen Thompson, one of my personal favorite players on the team, the Detroit Pistons. You guys see it on the hat. But the Detroit Pistons, we have his twin brother, Asar. So I'm a huge fan of both of these guys. But Ammen Thompson, he is special. Every time he has the basketball in his hands, it looks like something amazing is about to happen. He just has that perfect blend. He has that perfect blend of athleticism, shiftiness, and creativity. He is a aesthetically pleasing basketball player, but he also does the dirty work. He's a shot blocker. He's an on ball pest. He can rebound the basketball, and then also him and his twin brother, they understand the game at a high level. And if you watch any interviews with Ammen and Thompson, these guys are basketball. These guys are basketball junkies. Like, they eat, live, sleep basketball. I saw this one video when they were asking them crazy questions about the history of the NBA, and they were getting them right so easily. So these guys love basketball. They have good work ethic, and I expect Ammen Thompson, he could be a player to make a huge jump this season. He could potentially crack that starting lineup. And so that's what you have with Ammen Thompson. You have a guy with great size. He's 6'7". I believe his wingspan is like 6'11", 7 feet, somewhere up there. Just made a video on that, but I can't remember what his wingspan. And he has a crazy wingspan. He's 200 plus pounds. He has the NBA size, body strength, speed, and then he has a bunch of tools when it comes to his skill set. So Ammen Thompson at the 2 spot for your backup lineup, that is a blessing. And then we look at the 3, where we have Cam Whitmore. And my favorite thing about Cam Whitmore, you could see this last year, he played like a player that was passed up in the NBA draft. And Cam Whitmore, he was a player that's supposed to be a lottery pick, top 5, top 6, and somehow he fell all the way down to number 20. Now, from what I'm hearing, a lot of teams were turned off by the injury history on one of his knees. So the Houston Rockets getting Cam Whitmore, one of the biggest steals ever, because his rookie season, I think his rookie season was very, very underrated. Coming off the bench, he averaged 12 points per game, and he shot 46% from the field. That is big time. That is elite. But Cam Whitmore, he's another, just like a lot of these guys on the Houston Rockets, he's a super athlete. He probably has the most NBA ready body out of all of these guys. He's came into the league at 6'7", 230 pounds, all muscle. He can jump out the gym. And Cam Whitmore just has a knack for scoring the ball. In the NBA last season, he showed the ability to knock down the 3-point shot. And then he was so good in transition. And then just overall putting pressure on the rim. Putting pressure on the rim, getting downhill, getting offensive rebounds, getting smaller guys in the post. He is so good at finishing around the rim. So you have him at the 3 spot, and then you get to the 4. You get to the 4 spot, and you have Trae Young. And Trae Young, I think he's one of those. And I think he's like one of those hidden gems. Now Trae Young, if I remember correctly, the 2022 draft, he was another player that went lower than really what he was supposed to go. I remember in a lot of mock drafts that year, he was like the 10th, 9th, 11th overall pick, somewhere in that range, and then he slipped all the way down to number 17, which is so crazy. But like they say, one man's trash is another man's treasure, because I think Trae Young, he has so much potential, but he's just a freak of nature with the way his body is built. Freak of nature with the way his body is built, and then also his athleticism. But we look at Trae Young, he's 6'7", he has that 7'2" wingspan, and he has the biggest hands in his draft class, and I believe his hands are only like 2 inches smaller than Kawhi Leonard hands. So he has that. He's super fast going up and down the court, and he's also super fast going side to side. He's an animal on the defensive side of the ball. He can rotate down to block shots, help protect the rim, rebound the basketball. He can rotate up to play the passing lanes, and then there's not too many guys in the NBA that he can't stay in front of when it comes to playing on-ball defense. So he's a jack of all trades on the defensive side of the ball. You throw him in the low post, you can throw him on the weak side help, and then you can put him on the ball. He can do so many things defensively. And then I think one thing that doesn't get talked about enough is his rebounding. He's a crazy rebounder on both the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. It's just like he has a nose, and he has a tracker in his head on where the basketball is going to go. That's how good he is at rebounding. And then offensively, he has so much untapped potential. And I like Trae Young because he does the simple things. He does the little things, and he does them really well when it comes to cutting, when it comes to running the floor. He runs the floor really hard. As soon as he gets that rebound, he gets it to the point guard, and he runs that floor. He gets a lot of easy buckets that way. He knows how to cut in the half court. From what I've seen so far in the NBA, he's been knocking down those wide open 3-point shots. He's a good decision maker, and he has some potential on the offensive side of the ball. If he continues to work on that area of the game, he could be a much even better basketball player than what he is right now. I should say he can even raise his ceiling higher than what it is right now. So you have Tari Eason at the 4. And then you get to this 5 spot. And you have Steven Adams. And Steven Adams, he's an addition that's often overlooked because he came to the Houston Rockets last season when he was already announced out for the season by the Memphis Grizzlies. So, or at least for me, that's why I overlooked it, because I haven't seen him in a Houston Rockets uniform yet, but it hasn't clicked for me. But when you can have somebody like Steven Adams coming off your bench, who last season, before he went down with this injury, not playing heavy minutes, he averaged 6 points per game and gobbled up. Wow, gobbled up is crazy, but he snatched up 11 rebounds per game playing, I wouldn't say low minutes, but definitely not playing. He wasn't playing 30 plus minutes per night. So he'll be used to not playing that long with Alperen Sengun on the team. But with Steven Adams out there, the time that he's out there, he's so impactful, and he can do a lot of damage. And just like Tari Eason, I shouldn't say the best part. That's not the best part of Tari Eason's game, but I should say just like Tari Eason, Steven Adams excels at rebounding the basketball on both the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. He's just a mountain when it comes to rebounding. It takes 2-3 guys to box him out. He somehow, especially on the offensive glass, he somehow always comes down with the ball. And he's not just a rebounder. He does so much of them little things. Steven Adams is probably the best, if not the best, one of the best screen setters in the NBA. I'll never forget when Pat Bev was full court pressing Russell Westbrook, and Steven Adams laid one of the craziest screens I've ever seen. He hammered Pat Bev, and that's back when Pat Bev was a little controlled back then. He kind of needed that screen to knock some sense into him, but he's an elite screen setter. He can roll to the rim. He serves as a lob threat and a really good finisher around the rim. He doesn't get many touches, but whenever he does, he's a solid finisher around the rim. He can catch and dunk lobs, and he's just a solid basketball player. He can protect the rim, and with the athletes that the Houston Rockets have and the defenders, he can play his favorite form of pick and roll coverage, and that's just getting back in the drop and protecting the rim. And he has a very high basketball IQ. He can predict where a pass might be going. He gets a lot of deflections and a lot of steals. Just a smart, great basketball player. And whenever you have him coming off the bench, that means you have a really, really good ball club, and we all believe that's what the Houston Rockets have. So there we go. There we have it. That's who I think is going to be the 5 for the Houston Rockets, and I think this group could work on both the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. I think their strong suit is going to be their defense and getting out in transition, because they have some guys that can run. Ammen Thompson, Cam Whitmore, and Tari Eason. They're all great in transition. They're all great defenders. So I think with this unit, you're going to be able to with the on-ball pressure that they're going to be able to provide, they're going to be able to speed their opponents up a little bit with their ball pressure, and I think they're going to attempt to get out in transition. And you have Shepard running out on the wings. You have Cam Whitmore running out on the wing. Tari Eason, and you have Ammen Thompson as your playmaker. Ammen Thompson as your playmaker in fast break situations. That's what you want, because he can rebound, he can push the ball, he can make outlet passes, he can perform that one-man fast break. So it's a lot of great things the Houston Rockets can have going defensively when it comes to the transition game, and I think they're going to be fine offensively in the half court as well. Multiple ball handlers with Shepard, Ammen Thompson, and Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore can go and get his own bucket. Ammen Thompson can go and get his own bucket. So can Shepard. And then Shepard, he's going to have the ability to stretch the floor for these guys. A lot of people don't realize you just need one good shooter to get good looks for everyone, to get open threes for the rest of the players, to get easy cuts to the rim for the rest of the players. And Shepard, he looks like he has the potential to be that type of shooter that brings in so much gravity, and that it works out for his teammates. And that's what people got to realize with the Golden State Warriors. Yeah, they led the league in three-pointers every year, but we look at their team, the only real elite shooters they had was Steph and Clay. And I know they might be the greatest two shooters of all time, but their gravity was so crazy. They had everybody else on the team getting wide open threes, getting wide open cuts at the rim. So having one or two guys that's really good at shooting, it can mean all the difference in the world. But yeah, I can see this lineup working well for the Houston Rockets. They have a great coach in Ime Udoka, and I think the Houston Rockets have the best second unit in the NBA as of right now. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment down below if you keep doing that. But and then also subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man. And that's curtains.